Sister Alberta, Scout's Honor. This is the way I remember it. I title this story The Poem. Growing up in the mid-30s and raised by Catholic parents, my education was entrusted to the nuns that were dedicated to not only teaching us the 3 R's, they ruled us with discipline, demanded respect, and as our reward, we were presented with religious cards of the saints. The first 6 grades I slid through comfortably. It was the 7th grade, and Sister Alberta I dreaded. She taught at St. Mary's for the past 15 years. Her no response, strict manner made all of us cringe in her presence. I pleaded with my parents to let me attend the public school that was actually closer to where we lived. My words fell on deaf ears. You're Catholic, and the nuns are here to do God's work, I was reminded whenever I complained. Sister was a mere 5 feet 2 inches tall. Her small, round face was almost childlike until you looked into her eyes that were more observant than today's electronic cameras. I just knew she had ESP and eyes in back of her head under that black habit the nuns wore at that time. Take out your notebooks and copy the poem written on the blackboard, is how we were greeted on our first day in her class. I expect you to memorize it. Beginning next week, you should know all of it by memory. Every morning before class begins, I will randomly choose one of you to recite the poem, and if you fail, you will be punished in front of the class, she emphasized. A 15 by 1/4 inch thick ruler was the weapon she used to whack us across our open palms. We were punished for not knowing our assignments or when we were disruptive in her class. I learned fast. One ruler chastising was all it took for me to remember the poem. Today, 67 years later, I can still recite it verbatim. There was a noble Roman in Rome's imperiled days who heard a coward croaker before the castle say, "They are safe in such a fortress. There is no way to shake it." On, exclaimed one hero. Let's find a way or make it. One Friday, our assignment was to write an original poem. Sister was specific. It had to be from 4 to 12 lines. It had to rhyme, and we were to have it written by Monday. The student whose poem was voted best by the class would be awarded a prize, which was one of her favorite books of poetry. Sister had a thing about poetry. She constantly read us her favorites when the weather was too cold to go outdoors for recess. I guess that's why it took me so long to come up with a poem she would consider a literary classic. All weekend, I racked my brain trying to come up with something. Monday morning came all too soon, and I was still drawing a blank. I faked having a stomach ache, hoping I could stay home and bide for more time. But my mother, who also had ESP, didn't buy it. Think of something sweet that you can say about her. It will get you in her good graces, and 4 lines should not be that difficult, Mother encouraged. While I was leaving the house to go to school that morning, a poem finally came to me from out of nowhere. Perhaps I was divinely inspired, for I pictured Sister in a cloud of pink cotton spun sugar, the kind that's wrapped around a piece of parchment, usually sold at a carnival. I didn't even have to write it down. It flowed so freely. I memorized it immediately. Today it is still locked in my memory. I know the classmates were in awe with my profound poem because when they met me in the hall or on the school grounds after hearing the poem, they would raise their eyebrows and repeat the last 2 lines and smirk. When it came my turn to get in front of the class that Monday, Sister was sitting at her desk. I recited my poem with gusto. Roses are red, violets are blue. Sister is sweet. Tweet, tweet. I don't know if I made any points with her, but for some reason I got the feeling she was trying to figure me out, if I was sincere or just plain stupid. Footnote. Today, 65 years later, I realized she had a purpose for demanding that we memorize that particular poem. As my children were growing up, I told them this story and explained what an impression it had on my life. Find a way or make it gave me the determination to accomplish everything I deemed important.